Welcome to UTRGV Storytime with School of Music Assistant Professor and Violinist Dr. Diana Seitz and narrator Dr. Dalia Guerra, Assistant Vice President of Public Art. Today's story is Ferdinand the Bull by Munro Leaf, with pictures from the Walt Disney production based on the original drawings of Robert Lawson and music composed by Alan Rideout. Enjoy our story! Once upon a time in Spain, there was a little bull, and his name was Ferdinand. All the other little bulls he lived with would run and jump and butt their heads together. But not Ferdinand. He liked to just sit quietly and smell the flowers. He had a favorite spot in the pasture under a cork tree, and he would sit in its shade all day and smell the flowers. Sometimes his mother, who was a cow, would worry about him. "Why don't you run and play with the other little bulls and skip and butt your head?" she would say. But Ferdinand would shake his head. "I like it better here, where I can sit just quietly and smell the flowers." And because his mother was understanding, even though she was a cow, she let him sit there and be happy. As the years went by, Ferdinand grew and grew until he was very big and strong. All the other bulls who had grown up with him in the same pasture would fight each other all day. They would butt each other and stick each other with their horns. What they wanted most of all was to be picked to fight in the bullfights in Madrid. But not Ferdinand. He just liked to sit quietly under the cork tree and just smell the flowers. One day, 5 men came in funny hats to pick the biggest, the fastest, the roughest bull to fight in the bullfights in Madrid. All the other bulls ran around, snorting and butting, leaping and jumping, so the men would think that they were very, very strong and fierce, and pick them. Ferdinand knew they wouldn't pick him, and he didn't care. So he went out to his favorite cork tree to sit down. But he didn't look where he was sitting. And instead of sitting on the nice cool grass in the shade, he sat on a bumblebee. Well, if you were a bumblebee and a bull sat on you, what would you do? You would sting him. Wow, did it hurt. Ferdinand jumped up with a snort. He ran around puffing and snorting and butting and pawing the ground as if he were really, really mad. The 5 men saw him and they shouted with joy. Here was the fastest and fiercest bull of all, just the right one for the bullfights in Madrid, so they took him away in a cart. And what a day it was. Flags were flying. Bands were playing. And all the lovely ladies had flowers in their hair. They had a parade into the bull ring. First came the banderilleros. Next came the picadores. And next came the matador, the proudest of all, and he bowed to the ladies. Well, then came the bull, and you know who that was, don't you? Well, Ferdinand went to the middle of the bull ring, and everyone thought he was going to fight fiercely and butt and snort and stick his horns around. But not Ferdinand. When he saw the flowers and the lovely lady's hair, he just sat down and he smelled. He wouldn't fight, no matter what they did. He just sat and smelled. And the banderilleros were angry, and the picadores were angrier. And the matador was so angry because he couldn't show off that he cried. So they had to take Ferdinand home. is sitting there still under his favorite cork tree, just smelling the flowers quietly. And he is very happy.